Welcome to the Boomer Technician. Today we're headed to our 8th car show, our 8th state out of 50, and we're headed west over the mountains and quite a few clouds looking west. So hopefully the roads remain clear and we can get in that car show. We're kind of pushing our luck. It's late October, but with any luck we'll get over the mountains without any serious weather and we can get in our 8th car show. So fingers crossed, let's see how far we can get. Well, we're at the highest point of the drive here at the Vail Pass, and as you can see, things are pretty dry. There's some snow up on the hills, but all in all, pretty good drive so far. And it remained a good drive all the way through Colorado. We did hit a little road construction here in Glenwood Canyon, but a lot of that has to do with the complexity of the highway in the Glenwood Canyon. It's got a bunch of tunnels. It's got a bunch of viaducts where the road's raised way up over the bottom of the canyon. And the canyon itself is a very narrow canyon. There's barely room for the interstate, the river, and train track also runs through here. But it's the last time I'll be going through the Glenwood Canyon on my 50-state tour, so I wanted to capture it and share you some of this scenic countryside with everybody before we wrapped the day up. It's a long drive from Denver through the Colorado high country to get to Utah, but it's a spectacular drive and well worth the trip. So next stop, Utah. Well, I made a stop in Green River, Utah. It's 140 miles to the next gas station, so I topped the tank off and I ran in for a quick bite. And it's thinned out a little since I got here, but when I first arrived, there were Jeeps and pickups and bicycles and dirt bikes and 4x4s everywhere, because we're about an hour from Moab, and all the folks coming down from Salt Lake City are topping their tanks off here before they get to Moab, because Moab is one of the great automotive enthusiast sites in Utah if you're an automotive enthusiast of the Jeep variety. People love to come down here. Many people from across the country have been to Moab and they know exactly what I'm talking about. The other great automotive enthusiast site in Utah, well, it's way up in the northwest corner of the state, and it's called the Bonneville Salt Flats. And unfortunately, we're not getting anywhere close to that. But if we were, I'd make a stop. Instead, we've stopped here in St. George, Utah. It's about 5 miles north of the Arizona border on the far south end of Utah. And it's a first responders car show with quite a few interesting vehicles. We're going to look at them right now, and we're going to do something a little different. We're going to start with the earliest cars, and we're going to end with the later cars. So right out of the bat, we've got some 1930s cars. This is a pair of 32 Fords. One's kind of a traditional Deuce Coupe, and the other is a more modern-looking hot rod with maybe some Bonneville influences, a little streamlining going on. And here's a 32 sedan that's chopped kind of in a rat rod style, but the owner has put a nice shiny paint job on it, which is an interesting contrast to what we usually see when it comes to rat rods. This is, I'm going to call it a 37 Ford. It could be a 36 or a 38, but it's a nice looking little rig. And here we've got a 39 Buick, and it's a resto mod. And we'll see in a second here, it's got a pretty radical motor. It's got a 454 big block, according to the badge, and it appears it's got a Vortec fuel injection system. I don't know if that's a GM Vortec or an aftermarket version, but I'm sure it scoots along pretty nicely. Here we have a 39 Pontiac. That's something I had to look up. And then we've got a 39 pickup, which has been converted to a flatbed and is a very nicely finished rig. Next up, we've got this drag rig with these big slicks in the back. I'm assuming the motor can push them. Here we've got some post-war stuff. It's a 47 Ford. Not a big fan of the 47 Fords, but it presents pretty nicely in this yellow shade. Next, we've got a 49 Ford F1, and you'll see as we zoom in on the brake drums, the owner has chromed them. Kind of an interesting choice. At the end of the show, he was replacing these with the standard drums because the chrome doesn't hold up very well under daily use. Next up, we've got a mid-50s Chevy Wrecker with a mid-engine, an interesting choice. But this is an even more interesting choice. Here's a starting point, a Hillman Estate wagon and an Isuzu Amigo that the owner has combined. He's put the body of the Hillman on the Amigo chassis, and they've got the same wheelbase, so they match up nicely for an interesting off-road rig. Here's a very original car. It's a 63 Pontiac Tempest Le Mans convertible. It was a very loaded car. It had the 326 V8. And of course, this car had the rope drive with the transaxle and the independent rear suspension. Here's a brief look at a 63 VW Transporter, followed by a 64 C10. My grandpa had a truck like this. Wasn't nearly as nice as this one, but same color scheme, so that's kind of neat. We've also got a 64 Bug here. It's very nicely restored. It's got a lot of nice features. The owners found a original roof rack and some vintage luggage. And then we'll take a look at the engine compartment. You know, I sort of learned about these from osmosis. I had a number of buddies in high school who had one, and they're very simple. They're highly unique and different from everything else, but easy to work on as long as you don't have to replace the alternator. And here's a car that's quite a bit more complex than our Bug, quite a bit bigger, and, well, you know, resided on the other end of the market. 64 Lincoln Convert with a beautiful interior. Followed up by this nice 65 Ranchero, which had a pretty hot 289 with multiple carbs under the hood. After that, we've got the 66 Mustang, which shared a platform with that Ranchero, and a 66 Chevy 2. I like the stance on this car, very attractive. And this, I believe it's a 68 Chevy pickup with a very big turbocharger bolted to the top of the engine. Moving on, we're going to look at the 70s, starting with this fantastic 70 or 71 Camaro Z28 in silver. Looking at the engine bay, this is a very, very good car. Next, we've got a 71 El Camino. Just kind of caught my eye. After that, we've got a 71 Challenger. I've got a lot of Mopar buddies, so I always like to catch an e-body and share it on the video because they get awfully excited over these things. And then I've got some other friends who are big on Volkswagen. So here's another Bug. This one's about 13 or 14 years old, newer than the one we saw earlier, but it too presents very nicely. We're going to finish the 70s with this 78 Corvette pace car and then move on to the more modern cars. I don't have any 80s cars captured on video, but here's a 90s era Vet with a 2000s era Vet. And they're going to be followed up with some rather interesting cars, starting with this little Scion XB pickup in this rather outrageous green. It's a very well done car. They used the hatch layer to form the back window, and I guess the roof makes the bottom of the pickup bed. So it's a pretty cool little rig. Caught my eye, and I thought I'd share it with you. After that, we've got this 2012 Dodge Challenger SRT 392 daily driver with 225,000 miles on it. So that's pretty impressive all by itself. And finally, I'd like to introduce you to Rustin Stevens and his wife. I interviewed him at the show, but unfortunately the VO didn't come out very well. They're two fairly young folks. He actually works at Grease Monkey, which is why they've got the inflatable behind him. But they're both big car enthusiasts. Rustin inherited the Transporter from his grandfather, and his wife got the pace car from her father. So they like taking them out to the car shows, and it's always good to see young folks at a car show. So I thought I'd interview them, and as I say, unfortunately it didn't come out, but credit to them for showing up. Well, that ends the car show, but it didn't end my trip because it was relatively close to visit a buddy of mine in the California high desert. So I decided to run down there after the show. And you can see him here with his mid-50s Willis pickup. He's done all the work on it. A rather interesting guy and a very impressive truck. It was written up in Peterson's Off-Road magazine, and the article is online. So I've gone ahead and linked it in the video description. So if you want to know more about Paul and his truck, you can read the article. Well, sorry for the jump from bright desert sunshine to this night snowstorm in the Colorado high country. Wasn't much of a snowstorm, but I took this shot as we were sitting in the gas station headed home. It turned out it caused me quite a bit of trouble, and I'll tell you about it from my driveway. We're back from Utah. It's the next day, and I'm not sure the camera shows it, but the sole survivor is filthy. We ran into that snow that I briefly recorded while I was at that gas station, and then as I headed home from there, they closed I-70 on me. There was an accident approaching the Eisenhower Tunnel, so they bypassed us over the top of the mountain on the Loveland Pass. And it went pretty well till we got to the summit, and then I hit the traffic. And from the summit of Loveland Pass down to the I-70 to Made Up again, I rolled down that hill in first gear at idle. And I must have gone somewhere between 8 and 10 miles at 4 to 5 miles an hour. It took a full 40, 50, maybe even 60 minutes to make that brief little drive. But once I got back on the freeway, things cleared up, and I made it home fairly quickly from there. So final arrival time home was about 11:45 at night. A little later than usual, but it happens. So the other things that happen is sometimes the car has some mechanical issues, and during this trip I started getting a crack out of the front suspension and did a little investigation. It appears the sole survivor needs a new ball joint, so I've got that on order, and that's going to be a little later. So for now, we'll call it a day and only say this: no matter where you go, there you are.